Austin, what's up, my man? Welcome back to the podcast. Great to have you as always.
Likewise, brother. Appreciate the opportunity.
It's probably been, I'd have to go back and look, at least 2 or 3 years since I feel like we were catching up more. And a lot has changed, I'm sure, since then. So this is always a good excuse to just have that conversation. But
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind, for those that maybe not know where you were at or where you're at today, could you give an overview just of what your current business looks like today and then what your role in the business is?
Yeah, 100%. Previously, we are doing like a lot of flipping and wholesaling. Now we're focusing on building the rental portfolio through build to rent in the residential space. And then also looking at flex warehouse, small bay, whatever terminology you want to call it. And we're also looking at building those as well. I think it'd be great to, just haven't found the right opportunity. So that's kind of what the model looks like now. As far as what I do on the day to day, I'm really kind of focused on the acquisition side and then raising the capital to continue to grow.
Awesome, man. I love it. Nice and concise. Just for context, you mind giving the audience like a little bit of, I guess, just detail on the numbers, if it's either number of units, top line revenue, anything, just so that we can kind of conceptualize what you have going on.
Yeah, yeah. So the total portfolio value is like 35-ish million dollars.
Awesome.
We do not run syndication, so we own all of it. So that's the goal is to continue growing, get the portfolio over nine figures.
Dang, that's awesome, man. And what's the makeup of unit type across that 35 mil?
Yeah, majority single family because that's kind of how I got started. Was really kind of all single family, and then we got into like smaller multis, like twos, fours, six, eights, tens, and then two commercial, technically three commercial properties, one office building, and then two warehouses. Those warehouses are multi-tenant, almost 100,000 square feet of warehouse space.
All right. So you have a huge portfolio. It's very rare we have people come on the show and talk about a portfolio that size that aren't doing syndicating or fund model.
Yeah.
So could you talk about how has there been any direct like levers you've pulled that led to like more significant growth? Has it been like, raising debt and then refining partners off deals, or has it been just using no or low money down or burn method, or was there like anything, a specific trigger or lever that you pulled that took the portfolio from, let's say, like 10 million to 35 million or 20 to 35 million in a shorter period of time? Because that's just unbelievable, like growth and just like size of a company without taking on partners, syndication, or a fund.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's kind of two big jumps. And the first one was previously it might have been like that 10-ish million dollar mark to grow from there. And it was just raising more private capital and doing more deals. So really just kind of like copy and pasting what we're already doing. It worked, don't fix it, keep growing. And then, I kind of got introduced. I actually fell into my first like warehouse commercial deal. A buddy of mine brought it to me, ran the numbers completely wrong, bet in a good way. Like I ran it non-triple net and it was triple net. And, it was one of the best deals I've done. And that was like $1.5 million-ish dollar deal. It's like, all right, that one deal, is bigger than my biggest multifamily deal. And then bought another 60,000 square foot warehouse. So kind of the second jump was just doing bigger stuff. At the end of the day, it's like big, like this one commercial deal would be roughly about $7 million, and that's the equivalent of like 30 to 40 single family houses on one deal. So going into the commercial world has definitely helped that as well. But it's the same model across the board, and you referenced it. It's kind of basically the Burr model. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance. And we just raise money on debt, so interest to our private money lenders, whether that's 8, 10, 12%, whatever it is. And then we'll refi them out and pay them off once the deal is completed. So we're able to retain that ownership, and then they typically just roll their money onto the next deal with us.
So we're not usually a beginner show, but I don't think a lot of people on our audience list are doing anything like what you're doing, or guests that we've had on, as far as just like true burr model without using a lot of your own capital. So
Yeah.
could you maybe just give like the crash course 101 of maybe how that works, how you did it, of like raising money, then maybe um, adding more investors to that pool, getting the investors to reinvest back into deals once they were cashed out, and sort of just growing that? Because I get the feeling now you'd have no problem raising money based on track record and just the deal size that deals that you've done. But could you maybe just walk us through like the progression, almost from like beginner status to then as it snowballs and you could start raising money faster and more easily?
Yeah, I say money's everywhere, and I literally everybody I talk to, everybody in some way, shape, or form, I try to spin them into a private money conversation. So I'm not like overly bearing, and then if the opportunity doesn't present itself, like I don't try to pitch it to everybody. I just form the conversation in a way to try to start that. But going way back, first deal ever, I raised $250,000 for my first flip. It was from a lady that I met a year prior at a local real estate RIA. She was trying to get started. She mentioned she had a self-directed IRA. She was going to use that money to do her own deal. So when I got my first deal and it came along, I called her. It's like, hey, by the way, like, how's real estate going? She's like, yeah, still looking for a deal. I was like, well, I got one, and she, luckily she was invested. She still does today, actually, 10 years later. But it started from that, simple one conversation to now, just having conversations with everybody that I meet to try to raise capital. So, I've raised money from, people at an airplane that I've sat next to, people next to me sitting at the bar, a lot of money from like local RIAs. People think it's a waste of time to go there. But the cool thing about there is that all those people want to be in real estate. But when people try to do real estate, they realize like real estate's not as easy as it's made out to be. So you can be that bridge to get them into real estate by becoming a private money lender to you. So I've raised a lot of money there. And then the other big thing is when people lend and they get the proof of concept, they want to lend again because they want the interest. And eventually they're going to be tapped out of money. So then I present them the next opportunity. They're like, hey, I'm out right now. It's like, great. Who else do you know that wants to make the same returns that that you're making? And then I've got a lot of referrals from people as well. So it's something that's kind of grown organically just through conversations. And it's never like a pitch, right? Like I genuinely, to my core, believe that I'm giving somebody an opportunity of a lifetime to invest with me. Because if you look at the way most people plan for retirement, round numbers here, but save $1 million, retire at 65, and then spend 70 grand a year while making a 4% conservative interest, and hopefully you have enough money at 85, 90 before you die. You have money to live on, and typically you end at zero, and then you give your kids nothing. So if that's the traditional route that 95% of the population employ, you can come in with an alternative. They save that same $1 million, and then let's say you pay them 10% interest on it. So you'll pay them 100 grand a year instead of 70 grand a year, and they'll have that into perpetuity. So they can live till they're 120 years old. You're still going to pay them. And when they die, they can give their kids $1 million inheritance instead of zero. I got goosebumps just talking about it. Like I genuinely, to my core, believe it's an opportunity of a lifetime. And that's why I talk to every single person I meet about it. Yes, there's weird times and, awkward conversations, but it's like, I'm swinging. I'm trying.
So true, man. It's also so much easier. It's kind of even back to what we were talking about before we record. Like, it's so much easier to talk about stuff and put stuff in front of people that you genuinely believe in. And
Agreed.
that is a home run 10 out of 10 win for both sides.
100%.
And like there's no like sleaziness feeling, not that there is like if anything you're saying, but I'm saying like you're there's so much more confidence in talking about stuff that you're just like 100 out of 10 confident in and know that is going to help them. On the other side of it, I'm curious, for people that are interested in this. We have a lot of people we've had on the show and listeners that are just like business investors. They're not maybe people that are going to look to raise debt for whatever they're doing. Like if they're interested in doing something like this, is the step just kicking off a conversation with someone like you and learning about what deals you have and learning about like the structures of things and then seeing what they could invest? Because like, yeah, the S&P is great. It's stable. It's not really going anywhere, but it could be really bad right now, or it could not be backed by anything, like a piece of real estate. So,
Sure.
yeah, how do you recommend someone listening to this, like, investigate it, but then maybe kick off some of those conversations themselves if they want to get the benefits of investing passively into something like real estate?
Yeah, I think one is education and two is the conversation. There's a lot of bad operators out there, right? And, if you lend to some people, like you will lose money, right? Because there's just bad people in this world. So the big thing is making sure that you're with a good operator, quote unquote. So some things that we do that, I would recommend having those conversations to ensure that your money's being protected. One, always need collateral. So you always need a mortgage on the property. If someone's just like, hey, wire me the money, like that's a clear red sign. Two, we give a personal guarantee and a business guarantee. So if it's only a business guarantee, all they got to do is file bankruptcy on that LLC, and then you're out, right? So a personal guarantee helps as well. So now you're personally liable for everything. And just making sure that ideally that person has some sort of liquidity. There's a single family house that we sold. This is my biggest loss to date. We flipped it, we
Mm-hmm.
sold it, and I personally lost $70,000. But the cool thing is that my lender made all their money. They got all their money back and made $37,000 in interest. So, I took the L personally,
Mm-hmm.
because like my lenders get paid. So those are some things like, to caution when you're looking at becoming a potential private money lender. But yeah, it's just having the conversation. And also too, if you're sitting on the other line, it's like, well, I don't have 200 grand sitting in a bank account. Almost none of my money that I raise comes from a bank account. So it's also knowing how to access capital. And this is something you can do as an operator to teach people so then they can become private money lenders. So a lot of our money comes from retirement accounts. So 401ks, IRAs, Roths, traditionals. We teach those people how to roll into self-directed IRAs, and then they can invest with people like myself. Or getting access to home equity line of credit, or borrowing against their life insurance policy. There's a lot of other ways to access capital and make money and or a margin. So if you're borrowing at 5 and we're paying you 10, you can make money on the margin. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it only makes sense in the right scenario with the right operators, because it can go south if things don't go as planned. But those are some conversations that I've had, and things to be wary of from a lending perspective.
How difficult is it or how long does it take typically to roll from a retirement account into like a private investment like we're talking about here?
Yeah, so rolling from a traditional retirement account to a self-directed IRA, usually it's like 30-ish days. It really depends how long where your money's currently being held, how long it takes them to release the money. So it can take a couple days, or it can take up to a month. And then the other big thing is typically you can't currently be working with the same employer that's funding your IRA or 401k, because they won't let you roll it. But if you're retired and or have transferred jobs, then you can potentially roll those previous accounts to a self-directed IRA.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. Changing gears here a little bit, I'd love to hear about your team and operations a little bit with the scale and size company that you're at now. Could you maybe just give an overview of, from a people perspective, what that looks like, who works on the team, how you communicate with everyone on the team, and then we'll dig in further from there?
Yeah, this is a very timely question. Previously, so years ago, way back in Columbus, Ohio, when we were operating, at scale, doing 10, 15 deals a month, we had a assistant, we had a transaction coordinator, we had a project manager, we had 6 cold callers, 2 lead follow-up people, and 2 closers. So that's like when we were operating at scale in Columbus, Ohio, kind of running a wholesale operation, but we were the buyers. I hated that, by the way. That's why I don't do it today still. So that was like, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. From then till now, everything's been third party. So we've had third party property management. We always hired general contractors, so essentially third party project management. And we've had third party sales teams at times. We buy a lot of deals from wholesalers. So really, the majority of the team has been third party up until about 60 days ago. That's why this is a very timely question. What I've realized is that you lack serious control when everything's third party. So we're in the process of bringing everything in house. So property management we brought in house about 45-ish days ago. So that's been a learning curve, to say the least. So we have a full-time property manager, we have an assistant, and then we've hired and are trying to hire a maintenance technician to help with that portfolio. So that's on the property management side. And then we're also, after that's done, we're going to be bringing project management inside and hiring full-time in-house project managers. I previously didn't have an office. One of the recent warehouse buildings we bought is 15 units. We're putting our office inside of one of them. So we'll have an office warehouse combo, and we'll just start stocking materials, because we're also doing build to rent, new construction. So stocking materials for the project manager, and then operating the portfolio with property management.
Just making sure I understand. So 5, 6 years ago, at that point, everything was outsourced to third party vendors. Like you still had, it sounded like sales and marketing or like lead gen in house,
Yeah.
but then for property management, repairs, that was all third party. And it sounds
Right.
like, do you still have in house sales and marketing as far as like lead gen, cold calling, or is that changed also? But it sounds like right now you're shifting to away, no matter what you were doing, away from third party property management, project management, and like maintenance. That'll be in house now. But I just wasn't sure on the sales and marketing or like lead gen stuff.
Yeah, so for the last few years, like we've just been buying everything from wholesalers. So, my brand on social media, people just kind of knowing me in the market. One of the best things I ever did before moving to Florida, like 3 years ago, is I did meetups every month in Columbus for free. And I just taught everything. Like people are like, why are you giving all that information? It's like, just give it, right? And the cool thing that's came from that, there's a lot of people that respect me highly, and they just want to do deals with me. So we've just done a lot of deals from wholesalers. I've had like a cold caller internal here and there over the last couple years, but nothing full time at scale.
Man, that's so interesting. It's almost like the Hermosi model, but for like real estate wholesaling. Like if you teach everyone how to hunt and then you can add value to them on the back end, like who are they going to call? They're going to come to you
Yeah.
because you showed them what to do and then you can help them make money on the other side of it also. It's also like, I mean, I'm sure you saw this in tons of people. Like so many people start wholesaling or like start trying to do flipping and they quit because it's like they're stuck trying to manage VAs or manage cold callers, like where you can outsource that to a third party in a sense of like wholesalers, the good ones, they're doing that all the time. They should be able to just generate your leads and then you could just focus on like project management, strategy, like deal structure, raising money instead of like managing people on the other side of the planet, which
Agreed.
it's very like that's a very difficult thing to do. Like and also like manage those people to be successful. So, man, that's super interesting how the business has changed. But like, it sounds like what you're focusing on more is what you can kind of do and control like best. And then for like lead flow, you kind of have something that is already churning and it's bringing something like for you.
Yeah. No, it's agreed. Like I hated the wholesale operation, the management
Yeah.
of it. So like, yeah, we're not getting the best deals because we got to pay a wholesaler margin in there. But there's still opportunity, and that's like I said, I have very niche cold callers from time to time. Those are still our home run deals. Like we've got this 60,000 square foot warehouse. We'll be into it for about 3.5. It'll be worth about 7 when it's done. That came from
Wow.
cold calling. There's a lot of land that we've bought from for build to rent. That we bought at 5, 10, $15,000 per lot to build on. So like we have done very niche as well, but it's not at scale. And then we've bought a lot from wholesalers.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd love to hear more on how you're going about repositioning some of the third party stuff to in house. Is it like just crash course and like learning it yourself, talking to other operators, other property management companies? Is it like we're gonna go bring in EOS and they're gonna like set us up, and then like yeah, then the people part of it, where are you finding the people that are then gonna be like filling those roles? So I know it's like a gigantic question, but just
Yeah.
curious how you're thinking about all that.
Yeah, no, it's been a learning curve. So we have about 180 units in total between everything, and I was personally managing the commercial portfolio, but the commercial portfolio, that acquisition is 15 units that have grown. So I technically wasn't managing that because that was still under construction, but I was managing the commercial portion. There was a property manager that was managing like 40 units, and then there was another property manager that has about 80 to 90 units. And kind of the conclusion we came to is one of them was just very poorly operated, the 40 unit. So I was like, all right, like we're bringing that in house, and then the ones that I'm managing in house. So that was kind of the initial lift that we had to bring. It's like 80-ish units, give or take. And so we brought that in house, and that was about 45 days ago. I mean, it's been a huge lift. So the first thing I hired was a property manager because I'm not local to Ohio. So I needed somebody local, boots on the ground. So that was the first hire. Got the first one wrong, got the second one right so far. And then there was a big portion of the portfolio that was Spanish speaking. So I got a virtual assistant that speaks Spanish and English that had previous experience in property management. So those two are kind of the property management side. It's been going well so far. And then I've been trying to hire maintenance. I've hired and it hasn't worked, and we're hiring again. Because obviously when you onboard a portfolio, there's maintenance, there's turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. So right now that is still third party. So, that's obviously costs money, a lot more money. So bringing it in house is the way to scale. And the cool thing and the thing that I've learned when talking to a lot of people is our portfolio, we own it. So like a lot of property managers and maintenance people hate property management because there's like so many people involved. They got to run it up the chain and get approval. And something that I've learned is like that's a big benefit to people. It's like just being very clear on the answers. Like yes, go, and then there's no confusion in between. So that's what I've been trying to leverage to get the A players and build a team. But it's been a process. When we did onboard it, I mean, there was a ton of immediate work orders because they lacked in the previous management.
Mm.
A lot of people passed due because they weren't enforcing things. So it's just been a pretty heavy lift to start. But it's one of the things. It's like I knew it was, so rip off the Band-Aid and be grateful in 6 months. So that's kind of where I'm at now. We're almost. I feel like we're like rounding it and on the way back up right now, which is good.
Can you talk about your process for finding those types of roles? Like finding in person specialized people, I don't have a lot of experience with. Every role I've ever hired has been like an information type role where someone's on a computer and then, we can sort of like start them quickly and then fire them quickly if they're not good. But like for people, physical roles, I have no experience with that. Not where to find them, how to onboard them, especially virtually. So I'm curious how you're going about finding them and then like training them. And I'm sure you've learned a lot already in the first like 45 days. So any learnings there would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I am very much still learning this, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But it's tough, right? My experience has been very difficult. So I've tried to hire it myself. I've hired headhunters. I've done assessments, and I have a very low hit rate right now with all those things. So something I'm still very actively getting better at. But the one thing that I've realized, it's not necessarily always a them problem. If it happens once or twice, it's like, yeah, they just were bad people. What I've come to learn is that, part of it's a me problem. I got to become a better leader. So you got to get better at sales. You got to get better evaluating deals. You got to get better at all this stuff. But as a leader, you got to become a better leader. So that's something I'm in the process of. So I am still very much learning this skill.
Yeah, I hear you. It's kind of like I was actually just about to post this, but I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. I still probably will, but I was like, if someone has gone through six bookkeepers, there's a good chance the bookkeepers weren't the problem.
Facts.
Like,
Facts.
it's the business owners. We all. But again, you have like the temperament for it, the humility of it. Of like, yeah, it's not always a them thing. Like, I need to get better, and I like that approach too because it's like when everyone leaves, I look at it more these days. Like, it sucks, but it's an opportunity. What did we get wrong? What can we do better? Like, we can learn things from that. Whereas if someone is just sort of like floating along, not great, we wouldn't know that and pick that up.
Yeah.
So that makes total sense. With the way your team is structured now, what does your team look like? I guess like during the transition period, is it mostly in Ohio? Is it virtual all over the world? Is it Philippines? Is it what does it look like now as you're transitioning?
Yeah, so we only invest in Ohio, Central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. So that's nice. We're not in multiple markets. So I personally live in Florida. The property manager is in Columbus, Ohio. The virtual assistant, property manager assistant is in Honduras. So that is a virtual one. And then the maintenance will be in Columbus, Ohio, once we hire that. And then the project manager will be in Columbus, Ohio, once we hire that. So most of the team will be in Ohio. We have the assistant for property management, and then we'll likely get an assistant for project management as well to help with like material ordering and scheduling and everything too.
I gotcha. Sort of related, but sort of not. Um, on the content side of things, like I think when we last spoke, this was a little. I mean, it was years ago, but it was like I think we were both sort of going like the agency route for content. We were uh, had more people maybe than we do now. I have like no one on it now. For me, my acquisition has actually moved off Instagram and it's now only on Facebook, and like we have a very different process for that.
Yeah.
Do you have any people dedicated to your content team now? What is your content strategy, I guess, and then what people work on that strategy?
Yeah, so the last like 60 to 90 days has been a massive lift, fires, issues, etc. So my content has drastically slowed down. I was actually talking with a buddy, and I was like, "Yeah, we got to get this back together." But prior to that, we had I don't even know what to call it. I forget basically third party. We had a team that helped, come up with the ideas, edit the ideas, post the ideas. Obviously, I still shot it because it's my content, but it was third party. But I've gone back and forth. Like third party's great because it's out of sight, out of mind, but it's also not you. So I like it being me. It's just like anything, finding the time for it. So nobody like you right now as well.
Yeah. When you were at your, I guess, like heyday in content, I mean, you still have a massive following. Like I just pulled it up. You're still at 352K on Instagram, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you have stuff on other platforms also. Like that's massive. When you were at your most, was it agency, like a third party, or was it in-house, like all your sort of creative, or was it like an employee that you had in-house that was sort of like driving everything?
Yeah, it was me and an employee. Like I was going live personally every day. I was
Dude, you were
thinking,
cranking on lives. I remember seeing that all the time. Like this dude is getting after it on lives.
yeah, I went like when TikTok first came out, I was doing lives like 5 times a day. It was a lot, but I mean it. I mean we've got I think 8 or 900,000 people on TikTok too. So it's but the best
Do you guys know how to do the one thing?
content has been me. And an internal, somebody in house, 100% solely focused.
Got it.
Do you guys know
And
how to
with
do the
that
one thing
person,
though?
oh sorry, I was pulling yours up. I have Hermosi chirping at me on my for you page. Um, on that, just like clicking in a little bit more on it. Was it someone that you hired that they were working exclusively with you? Did they have other clients? And like with that person, did you? Because that's been a role that I've really struggled to hire for ever is an in-house content person. Like I've never had a good one. And again, that's probably me, like what we were talking about before, but like you were crushing it. So like was it an American person? Did you interview them any differently, like test projects, or was it like sort of a unicorn that you just found and then they were amazing?
Yeah, so when when I had the most reach, it was when I was personally in Columbus, still operating, and we had somebody on payroll in house, no other clients, just us, that would just kind of roll with me all day, and talking to contractors, negotiating sales, walking projects, signing closing documents, and this was all in person. Which I think is like what people want to see. They want to see you walking houses. They want to see you talking with sellers. They want to see like the real stuff. So it's hard for me to do that in Florida. Obviously, there's ways to do that. B-roll, green screen, all that stuff. But when it was at its peak, it was when I was in Columbus personally, and had somebody in house. And how that person came along, I made a post. Somebody messaged me on Instagram. The test was, hey, I got an event tonight or Friday or whatever it was. Come out and shoot it and just kind of, make like a sizzle reel, like a recap.
Hmm.
And, he was there at the door waiting when I pulled up. So he got me pulling up in the car, getting out, dapping people up, speaking, shaking hands. And the sizzle roll was just fire. So hired him. He was great. He was a very artistic person. He the couple issues we had was like timing, focus because they're just artistic. They want to travel, they want to go backpacking and things like that. So it worked. It was great. And then it fizzled out. But yeah, that was the one.
Do you remember what you were paying him? I'm just curious.
It
And
was like 40.
was it a straight salary or was there any rev share?
It was just a salary. Like I had no way to monetize it then. That's what brought the coaching program and the courses and stuff. But I think I was paying like 40 or 45 grand a year at that time, which is 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, pretty good.
So would be a lot more now.
Yeah, for sure. And then now it's more the agency route. If and when you're gonna like re-ramp it up.
Yeah, so we've had agencies that we paid, a couple grand a month. We've had agencies that we paid 5 or 6 grand a month. This is not like the ad side. This is just the content creation side. Again, it works, and it has worked. But I think it'll be a mix of me and or like an agency.
I gotcha. It's a tough one to get right, and also to make sure that your voice stays
The
like
same.
relevant and the brand that you want. Because also the thing that I found too is then there's like a route that you can go that'll get a ton of attention and clicks, but it's just kind of like goofy or like I'm like, yeah, this is gonna drive a ton of leads, but I'm like, bro, this is cringe. It's my own video, and I don't even want, like, I'm embarrassed to even look at it, but like, it could drive a lot. So it's like then that trade off too, you know?
Agreed. I always want to be me. Like I don't want to fake any of it.
Yeah, 100%. So just winding down here, man. Where do you see the business going? It sounds like the main focus right now is bringing these things in house, but like, where do you see 2025 and then the next few years going? Is it more of what you're doing, changing things? I don't know, different direction of any type.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two focuses is one is build to rent. So building affordable entry level homes throughout the city. So we've got, I think we've built 12 so far. Got a few more under construction, and own a bunch of land to build like 30 more right now that we're
Hmm.
working through. So keep building those out, and ideally, buy 30, 40, 50 acres and build 100, 200 single family complex that's operated like a multi-family, like an apartment complex. It's just horizontal. And so the build to rent side, and then the commercial side, seeing what one deal can do, and the equivalent of what it would take in the single family space to match that. It's just the numbers are way bigger, way more profitable, way more cash flow, way more everything. So, going forward, the focus is build to rent and commercial.
A question I used to ask more of, but I haven't asked in a little while. I definitely need to bring it back. Is like, is there anything top of mind for you that you've either been like learning about, focusing on? It could be the stuff that you mentioned already, or it could be like, this use case with ChatGPT or software, or just like a management technique or something that you purchased that made your life a lot easier. Anything that's just, I don't know, been like an interesting thing that has helped you lately, or you've just sort of stumbled upon that you're spending more time on or with?
Um, no, I mean, really, the focus has been like figuring out flex warehouse,
Yeah.
and building it. So we've been pricing, doing a lot of pricing structures, and then the affordable build to rent. Anybody they say we're 5 million units short or whatever it is, but like we don't need 5 million more $1 million houses. You know what I mean? Like we need 5 million more two, three, $400,000 houses. So it's like how to build a model that can be affordable with current interest rates and with current price of construction,
Hmm.
which is something we've been spending a lot of time working through. Um, we we've done a bunch. We're still perfecting it, but I think we're close.
That's awesome, man. Well, been great to catch up on part two here. We might need to do a part three once all that stuff is brought in house and you're just crushing it and your margins are way up. But I know right now you're deep into it, which again, also I appreciate you coming on, considering that. What's the best way for people to get in touch or check you out? Like, I think at minimum, people listening to this, like my call to action to you would be check out private lending and check out like how that works and what you can maybe use your own assets or money to like invest back into things with someone like Austin or with Austin himself. Just because it is such a good opportunity. I have invested, I've lent money before into deals, same way with a promissory and backed by the real estate. And it was just a great experience. Like, I'm looking to do more of it. I'll probably ping Austin myself after this. But yeah, just that would be like my call to action. But Austin, what's the best way for people to learn about that, check you out, get in touch for anything, but that specifically going forward?
Yeah, Instagram is where I'm the most active on. So at Austin Rutherford official on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I respond to everybody. Would love to connect there. And to what Jonathan mentioned, if someone's like, hey, I want to make 40% of my money, it's like, yeah, go be active. Go get your own deals, go manage contractors, all that stuff. But if you're like, hey, I want some passiveness, and I just want to know that money's coming, I'd love to have that conversation and see if it's the right fit.
For sure. Austin, you the man. Appreciate you coming on. Great catching up. Just crushing it, man. Portfolio's huge. Doing cool stuff. Making changes in the business and adapting as a lot of people aren't, which is really cool to see. So, appreciate you coming on, man, and look forward to part three whenever we can catch up again, my man.
Likewise, bro. Appreciate the opportunity, man. It was great catching up.
You got it.